storyteller, everybody, Roohee Marshall.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the Secret Society of Twisted Storytellers, the whole team. So, I grew up in Natchez, Mississippi. Natchez is a small town that sits on the banks of the mighty Mississippi River. So, the Mississippi River is a place of inspiration for me. I go there whenever I'm home to just to clear and ease my mind. So growing up in Mississippi, I used to fish on the river with my father. I used to bask in the sun, and it was the best of times. It was the best of times. I felt completely free. So Natchez is filled with magnolia trees and oak trees, shady oak trees where the elders used to sit up under and tell stories about the deep South and growing up in the good and the not so good times. Endless sunshine it warmed my spirit, and it just made me smile. Now the elders, now that was the real soul food. They laid a solid foundation built on love and devotion. They distributed food to the community from our relatives' garden. They took care of the sick, the young, and the old. And they made sure that we knew the meaning of things like sharing and really caring. So they taught us the true meaning of hard work through their example. Yeah, through their example of paving the way through all kinds of circumstances. And they showed us how to fight for justice and to always, always be true to ourselves and fight for a better life. They stressed the importance of gratitude and being grateful for life because you see now everything is really guaranteed. So they wanted to make sure we got that. Now the elders in the community, anybody had permission, any of the elders had permission to get you straight. They would like look at you and put the fear in your heart, and you just obeyed, because you see they were well respected and they earned their way. So we gathered together as a family. They cooked good food that healed our bodies and our minds. And they taught us about what it meant for family. Family was always first. And the gatherings made us stronger. It made us closer. Well, it gave us a lot of confidence. It made us feel like we could do anything. Like they gave us the remedies for life. They prepared us for life, for even the hardest and the darkest of times in Mississippi. Like, I remember when I was around 6 years old and I was in the bathtub and my mother stood there strong, and she reached over and she gave herself a shot with this really long needle. So I was terrified. I just didn't know. I didn't know what to do. So I looked at my mother and she looked at me, and there was a moment of silence and I could see the sadness in her eyes. So she went out of the room, and I remember sitting there just really confused and not really knowing what to do. So later on, I found out that my mother had diabetes. And so my father, he was a really, really hard worker. He's like my hero. So we had no insurance, and my mother didn't have all the supplies that she needed to care for herself, to monitor her condition. So as a result, she ended up in the hospital a lot. So the times that she was home when she was sick, my aunts, they used to come over And they used to care for us. They used to do the things for us that my mother wasn't able to do, like our hair and take care of the food. We laughed, we danced, and we began to feel better. And then my mother got better and better, and then she was sick. So time passed on, and my parents, they decided that, well, my mother decided she wanted a better life for us. So she wanted to move to Chicago. So we moved to Chicago. And I remember I was 6 years old, going on 7, moving to Chicago. And I just felt it was very, very dark and lonely and cold, and definitely not any Mississippi sunshine. So we stayed in Chicago for almost 2 years. Yeah, almost 2 years. And time passed and it just became harder. My mother was sicker a lot more often. And so my aunt would come up, my guardian angel, my Aunt Pearl would come up, and she would help us out, but it was just too hard. So we ended up deciding to go back to Mississippi. I was happy. I was very happy. So we made it back home, back to our roots, back to the family gatherings, the Mississippi River, the blackberry dumplings, just the comfort of the elders and the community. So time passed. We began to get stronger with those roots and just family all together and coming stronger. And then my mother got really, really sick. And then at 9, I was 9 years old, and my mother died. So it was one of the saddest days of my life. So I remember the house being filled with family, friends, and hugs and tears and laughter of memories from my mother, the fun times, her beauty, her smile. And my grandfather was there. So my grandfather, he was like the backbone of the family. So my grandfather, he was known for his healing hands. Yeah, and his strong, quiet way. He had a way of just making everybody in the room feel better. And I certainly stayed close to him because he helped to help my aching heart. So we made it through those days. And then I moved in with my Aunt Pearl, my mother's sister, Aunt Pearl and Uncle Ro. And she would come into the room and she would sprinkle powder on my bed and she would wrap me in her invisible wings. She would wipe away my tears and she would cook that blackberry dumpling and I would feel warm inside. So she would remind me of how much my mother loved us and that she would always be with us no matter what. So at nighttime, I would fantasize and I would talk to my mother. I would think, I would see her in a gathering. I would run to her and we would hug each other and things would be like they were. Well, that never happened. I grew up fast. So the years passed, I grew up, years passed, and my sister got married, moved to Detroit, moved to Michigan. And she called me one day and she said, well, I think it's time you want to come in and live with me. I'm saying, yeah. So see, my sister, I adored her. Okay. I wanted to be like her. She was like my mother. Okay. She stood in for her. So I moved to Michigan. Time went on and my sister we had our first baby. Yeah, we had our first baby the same time, 3 months apart. So I remember my sister became sick after her first baby. And I remember my father coming up to be by her side. So she had kidney failure. So my father came up to be by her side from Mississippi. He was with her in the day and in the night and reminded me about love and the support that he gave to my mom. So the other elders would come, and again, that was tradition for the women, the elders, to come into the family and kind of help you see your way back. So my sister became better, and over a period of about 5 years, she struggled with her condition. And mind you, I was 29 and I had 5 children. So I remember the day that she called me. And she said that the doctor had given her 6 months to live. Can you imagine that? 6 months to live. So I was devastated. And so I went to her and, did the best that I knew to comfort her. So true to her word, in November it was a very cold day in November. My sister died 6 months later. So I was brokenhearted, and I I was just numb for the longest. I kind of lost my colors, you know. So I grabbed my children, my 5 children, and we went to Mississippi, back home to the sunshine, and through the love and the support of the community in Detroit and Ann Arbor and here. And we went back to Mississippi after a while, and to gain strength again from the elders, from their support, from their unconditional love, from just being in their presence and gaining strength again. So I got better, I got stronger, came back to Michigan. Yeah. And we were raising the children, and they grew, I grew, and life went on. And then one day I was looking at my youngest daughter, and she didn't seem very well. So we went to the doctor, the hospital, and the doctor came in and said that she was diagnosed with diabetes. And I'm like, okay, last thing on my mind. So I looked at my daughter and I was, it's no problem. We're going to get through this the way that they told me, whatever, I had received from my elders. So I looked at her and I said, I wish it could be me. And at 7 years old, she said, Ma, I wish it wasn't me or you at 7 years old. You see, my daughter, she inherited diabetes, but she also inherited the strength and the spirit of my mother and the ancestors. She's in her 30s now, and she has identical twins, and she's a strong advocate for living healthy with diabetes and life, period. So time moved on, and my children, they began to be total adults and move on with their lives and grow their lives and their families. And I began to feel a little bit, empty inside. So I began to miss like going down south with all my 5 children and, just running free, and just, the laughter and the love of the family gatherings. And I began to hear like echoes in my mind of different things that my aunts used to say. Like I used to call home and say, Aunt Dorothy, can you please sing to me today so I can get up out the bed? And she used to do that. So those things that sustained me were kind of like not there in the same place. So I remember my Aunt Willie Mae and my Uncle Roy and just so many of my elders, and my mother Mary, who comes up and talk. We have those long night talks about overcoming and faith. Yeah. So I was feeling kind of empty after a while of not having a lot of that. And so I was driving down the street one day, and I was going to visit my friend in Inkster, and I looked to my right, and I saw this beautiful elder standing in her yard. And I slowed down and went over and rolled my window down. And I said, can I come talk to you? Can I talk to you for a minute? And she said, yeah. So I got out of the car. I went over to her and I said, ma'am, I really feel like there's something that I'm supposed to learn from you today, something I need inside. She said, sure, honey, we can talk about it. Her name was Miss Ionia. She was 93 years old. She said, I'm sitting here, I'm standing here waiting for my grandniece to come. I just cut the front yard and I'm getting ready to cut the backyard. I began to feel like I was in Mississippi again. I began to feel this energy from her, of my own elders, of our ancestors, the strength, her beauty. Yes, her peace. And I began to feel better inside. So I asked her after a while of talking if I could come back and talk to her again. And she said, sure, honey, anytime. So I set up a time to go back to talk to her. And on my way home, I was driving down the highway, and I said, wow, I had begun to really feel myself again. Yeah, yes, I began to feel that little healing taking place. So I thought about it. I said, now there has to be other elders in the world who has more, and I wanted more of that. And there has to be people like me, who's feeling something, some kind of way, who needed something that only the elders could give us. Okay, so I began to think, now let me see. Now, then I thought maybe I should find other elders and write down, ask them some questions about life. And that's when my book, A Generation Found, Precious Pearls of Wisdom, was born. Yes. So I began to think about just who they are and, you know, what a difference they could make. So A Generation Found, Precious Pearls of Wisdom is a collection of interviews and photographs taken by me in an intimate setting of their sacred home, the elder's sacred home. The journey took me to 40 elders between the ages of between the ages of 80 and 108 years old. Precious elders brought together in one place, documenting our existence in real time. I can't begin to explain or tell you what a gift it is to me and to the world. You see, our elders, the knowledge and the wisdom, you know, it's important that it is preserved. You know, the knowledge, it's a gift, it's a treasure. So I was able, I was able to sit with them. They entrusted me, you know, with their thoughts, and I asked them questions about life, about their challenges, you know, their joys, about raising a family, jewels. So my journey continued, and I began to feel whole again. So you see, the elders, our prize elders, the sung and the unsung, they have given us the remedies to life, to help us to survive. So you see, our elders, ancestor spirit, now that is the real Mississippi sunshine, the soul food. Thank you so much for listening. Peace and love.
Thank you, Roohee. Thank you. Thank you. Mississippi. All right.
And Roohee, people are asking, do you have a book? How do we get more information about your book?
Yes. So my website is Roohee, Roohee, Marshall.com. And the book is also available at the Charles Wright Museum in Detroit in the gift shop. So yes, it's been an amazing journey. And if you have any other questions, you can just email me, rooheemarshall@gmail.com, or visit my website. Feel free. Again, it's rooheemarshall.com.
Now, somebody did ask, do you consider yourself one of the elders now?
Okay, so is that, yeah, I mean, definitely I feel that the generation, like my parents, a lot of them are no longer here, so we have kind of like stepped in their place. But the elders that I interviewed from 80 to 108, it's a whole different mindset, a whole different category. So I do consider myself an elder, of course. I'm 66 years old, thank God, you know. So in that sense, of course, I'm an elder.